Alright, hey, I'm Weather from the Summer School Discord, and I'm here today to walk through a game of AD carry Draven versus Tristana. And something that I like doing at the start of every review is to talk for a little bit about win conditions. Win conditions is something that helps kind of broaden your sense of ways you can win a game, and other than just going middle or other than just pushing your lane down and winning it really hard. It lets you understand sometimes also when picks are better than other picks and what the enemy team is going to try and do for their win condition. Sometimes your win condition is split pushing, sometimes it's grouping, sometimes whatever it is, it's good to have a plan whenever you start a game. And your plan kind of should start developing before you even pick your champion. And then in loading screen, you should have a like kind of strategy in mind of where you're going to go, and then you kind of adapt it throughout the game with who gets fed and what happens, where you've most recently seen people. So I'm going to go down the list of kind of every champion on both teams and briefly talk about like what they're going to try and do, how their matchup is, and stuff like that. So looking at your mid lane matchup is going to favor the Lux early just because of the way poke works out, and then it's going to eventually kind of favor the Annie if the Annie doesn't fall too far behind. And he does have a lot better roam pressure too. And because of that, you can expect to have no help from your mid laner for the first probably, I don't know, 8 minutes of the game. It's safe to imagine that you're not going to get much help because she's going to be either low health due to Lux harass or she's going to be trying to get herself back in the game and still thinking about her own lane. So you're not going to expect too many mid roams on either side of the team though, just because Lux doesn't really do that. Lux tries to play with the fog of war and throw her skill shots out whenever other people try and roam or follow. And her ganks are really hard to get off successfully because she's going to have to flash Q. That's pretty much the only thing she can do. To look at your top lane matchup, I'm kind of biased. I don't play a lot of top lane, so I don't feel these matchups out personally. All I know is kind of scaling and the way that they're going to play kind of towards mid game. Garen is a champion that has a pretty good early game, but begins to fall off. He relies on his passive to stay in lane, and he relies on being able to get on top of you by walking at you to do any damage. Meanwhile, Yorick has the ability to push two lanes at once, so if he can control a lot better split push come mid game, and he has enough disengage with his wall to probably avoid a straight fight if he falls behind. The only difference is for some reason this Yorick's running press the attack, which I have never seen before. So maybe that's going to give Garen a little bit of an advantage, but maybe it's something that I just am not used to, and maybe it's going to work out nicely. But this matchup, assuming that neither one gets too far behind, due to just map pressure, is going to favor the Yorick. Because the Garen's going to have no way to get onto the Yorick successfully, because he can just use his wall. Yorick's still going to be able to clear waves. The only thing the Yorick can do is, or the Garen could do is tower dive, and even if they did that, it's not guaranteed to play out well. So this matchup, 100% past 8 minutes, favors the Yorick. Your jungle matchup is interesting in a different way. Your jungle matchup is going to favor the Hecarim early, but since the Hecarim has teleport, the Hecarim is going to be looking for something kind of mid-game. And you also are going to have a lot of problems with potentially getting invaded. Hecarim doesn't have a very strong 1v1 because whenever he's clearing camps and stuff, he's using all of his burst abilities on the camps. So whenever a Yorick, or whenever an Udyr jumps into your jungle to invade, the Hecarim's going to be in a pretty bad spot, because he's going to have no damage to trade back. So Hecarim basically would have to just leave if he gets invaded. So even though early gank pressure kind of favors the Hecarim, early invades favors the Udyr. And then scaling, it really depends on if the Hecarim gets fed. Otherwise, it's going to go towards the Udyr. But Hecarim very often gets fed. And he's also got an interesting keystone, so he must be just going for sustain or something. I don't know. Most Hecarims take Predator. So now finally to your lane. This lane 100% favors your team. Because Karma, the best thing you can do to counter Karma is having a healing lane. And Karma works best with heavy poke lanes. So a Karma Caitlyn, right? That would be an ideal bottom lane. Or a Karma with someone who can easily capitalize. So Karma Varus which is going to push down pretty good damage and trade whenever Karma trades too. Good range and stuff like that. But with the recent kind of nerfs to Tristana, her range is really bad, which means that you're going to be able to force every trade you want early, and she's not going to trade onto you. Tristana will not trade onto you unless you're trading onto her, but that means that you can pick your windows when you want to trade. The only problem with this specific matchup is early if you get shoved in. They have a lot of potential to just shove the wave, and if you end up getting stuck under your tower in a bad spot, it could be that you're never in a position to trade back, and then you'll just lose CS to turret while you're trying to push the wave back out. But then they're already pushing it again. So the only thing you really have to watch out for early is kind of just wave control. If you keep your wave priority and you don't let them push you in too hard, you will basically win this lane by the matchup. But what both teams kind of want to do later in the game, right? That's kind of the point of this, to understand what your team's going to be doing. Well, your Garen is going to be less relevant in a split push scenario. Yorick is going to win in a split push scenario. However, your true kind of bread and butter here comes from you can rotate to that lane and put the Garen in a different lane. If the Garen is put bottom lane, maybe that's not the best thing. He's not going to be able to save this turret from getting pushed in. But if you rotate to this lane, it's going to prevent the Yorick from being able to control this past 6. So if you win your lane and you rotate top lane, you're doing a pretty good thing. But mid lane matchup, this definitely favors you guys for vision control's sake. Whenever you're going to just sit mid, that's something that a lot of times happens in a game. You're going to lose. You don't want to sit mid because you're not going to have the advantage in side lanes, because side lane Yorick is going to beat side lane Garen later in the game. And in a just waiting for something to happen situation, Annie is a good, if she has flash, but if she does not have flash, the only thing your team is waiting for is to get poked down or Lux Q'd. There's nothing that can happen other than that, really, unless Annie has flash. But you never want to end up grouping mid. In this kind of ideal world, what would happen is you win bot lane enough, you go and rotate top lane. Then your Annie and your Garen kill mid lane and then push mid lane, and you trade potentially 2 turrets for 1. But you're not going to have the ability to hold this turret if you rotate away from it. So in this practical sense, not in the ideal sense, now in the practical sense, you're going to be stuck in this lane, because no one is going to be able to prevent this turret from falling. And let me just turn it to your vision. So you're going to have to probably stay bottom, and then your new problem is awareness of whether or not, okay, well, Annie's not going to get any ganks, whether or not you're going to get ganked while you're pressuring these lanes. So, okay, alright, this is a problem. You guys are not aware at all. Whenever you're signing up to play a game of League of Legends, this is one of my least favorite rants, but also one that I say quite frequently, is you need to be there the entire game. And that means getting out of base early, and that means not tabbing away whenever you're watching vision, and that means providing early vision. Something simple like this kind of just overall troll thing that happened here, because Annie doesn't have flash, the first gank that Hecarim gets off with red buff, if he goes middle, Annie doesn't have flash to set him up, which means that this is probably not going to be a kill, because Annie will not have the ability to force that engage. So now Annie can't get ganked. Now if you look at your lane, right, if you die here, or if you burn flash, now all of a sudden you're vulnerable to get ganked, or you've just snowballed their lane to the point that they're going to beat you. Look, you've already used exhaust, so now this means the first 2 minutes of your lane, you have to be worried of an all-in. You can't all-in them at level 2. If they play it correctly, that is. Because you're down in summoners now. And the only thing that had to be different here, right, this is causing you problems for the next, 5 minutes, is been paying attention. Right here. If you were paying attention, you could have walked away unharmed, unhit. This would not have hit you if you were just straight up walking away. And you had a good few seconds to recognize that and walk away. And you know, to understand, yeah, you just gave him first blood. What does that really matter? And you'll just play safe, right? What does that really matter? Well, if you're thinking about any game you've ever tried to surrender at 15 minutes, and you understand the nature of snowballing, right? Because that's the game. That's this game. This game snowballs. Then you're going to understand that the earlier something happens, the more impactful it is. So where is an earlier play than this? So any game you surrender at 15 minutes, those advantages that can snowball out of control, those 15-minute surrenders come mostly from shit like this. And maybe it's not a 15-minute surrender game, but like 20-minute surrender game. Things like this, these simple just paying attention at the early part of the game, will probably save you from surrendering maybe 30% of your 15-minute surrender games. Just paying attention. Because now you don't have heal, you don't have exhaust, and Lux has a kill, and Annie doesn't have flash. This is a terrible situation to be in level 1. And now your Nami doesn't have flash either. Terrible, terrible situation to be in level 1, because now you can't do anything and you're going to be late to this wave. And now your jungler's camp got stolen. So not only is the situation like what I said earlier, where, you know, your Annie can't get a gank because she doesn't have any setup right now your jungler is going to be behind. So remember how I said that invade pressure was going to fall in Udyr's hands and gank pressure was going to be in the hands of Hecarim? Well, if Hecarim tries to rush to a counter invade, right, he goes to get this red buff, but then Udyr just beelines it over here too, Hecarim's probably going to lose that. He's not going to be able to win that fight because he just doesn't have the damage. If he's doing a camp, he's not going to have the damage. And what if he continues clearing down normally just to be safe, knowing that that's kind of a risky invade? Then he doesn't have red buff, which takes away a significant part of his early gank pressure. So then the Hecarim doesn't get fed, and now this matchup falls towards the Udyr, right? Paying attention to win conditions made this an excellent play in a ton of ways, because they knew they had priority with gank pressure, right? Annie's not going to have her stun level 1. Nami wants to start W. If she starts Q level 1, that's already bad for her. They have Karma's Q damage early. They have Lux's root. They have Tristana's damage and possibly Udyr's stun. They have so much crowd control and damage level 1 that this invade is almost obvious. Got to be paying attention level 1. Pay attention. Alright, now it's a long time of me bitching about nothing, right? But it's important. If you're here looking for coaching, then you need to be improving. Like, you're looking for ways to improve. That's the reason you're here. And this is definitely one of the simplest and best ways to improve. Paying attention at all stages of the game, from that second you join Champion Select, right? If someone types something, the second you join Champion Select, to that minute your Nexus blows up or their Nexus blows up, be paying attention. So in this situation, your lane can heal. Nami can heal. But this is also what I was mentioning earlier, where your lane is getting pushed in and you're now experienced behind. The only thing you can do right now is to let this wave crash to your turret. You're going to get out-leveled and you are going to take too much damage because you're just not going to be able to trade. You have this wave here that you would have to hit. So you have to let this come in and you just need to be patient. And actually, it wasn't your heal. I guess that was their heal. So I guess you had a little bit of a better trade in that invade than I thought. In that situation, I think it was a pretty good idea to kind of accept your death. If you were able to flash this wall and walk up, they probably would have just had some people go around this way. So, and if you flash this wall and walk down, it's very likely they would have killed you anyways. So I think that I would have just accepted my death there, like what you ended up doing. I wouldn't be walking even this far up. This wave is going to push a little bit into you. Your Nami's going to be here. This is a very risky and kind of unnecessary thing. Because very likely the Tristana and the Karma could have stepped in these bushes. See, the Karma is getting in there out of vision. And if the Karma gets in there out of vision, and then they force onto you, they're going to get enough damage to make you have to play safe this entire wave anyways. That was some stupid disrespect right there. So, just to go into, like, you played this well. You played this well enough. They did not have heal on the Tristana, which means that you at least had that going for you. They did have heal on Karma. I don't know if they ended up using that or not. But anyways, the reason this trade kind of works for you is because of positioning. You're able to get the Karma and the Karma by herself. Tristana's just pushing the wave blindly, you know? So in this situation, it is a good idea to trade. You look and you see your support is here, you're still level 1, you're all full health except for Karma's actually a little bit lower, and you have heal flash, she has heal flash. Basically, this is a very good trade for that reason. The only reason this would, and look over here by the way, you see how the Hecarim is invading? Now, Hecarim doesn't have flash, right? So it'd be interesting to see what happens over here. So just pay attention, see if he gets away. He might get away because Annie's moving first. Annie did get push priority, so he might get away. But this is done really well because of positioning. Um, she takes a lot of damage, very disrespectful of her. And to flash in here, I probably would not have flashed in there personally because Tristana is level 2 and the Karma did have flash. Um, this works out by a trading standpoint, and I probably would have just stopped with a trade because if this was done properly, right? Tristana would not have healed over here, and Karma would have taken exhaust. If Karma had exhaust and Tristana had heal, then you are flashing in here without your exhaust, heal into heal, right? You're going to get exhausted in this minion wave, and you're going to be walking out slowly, and you're going to take a huge chunk of damage that you don't need to. Plus, if you die here, you now are level 1 versus level 3 when you get back to lane. I personally would not have done this, and I don't think this is a good idea to try and force down this when they do have summoners. However, it's very weird that this Karma does have heal, and even if she exhausted you here, you probably would have still killed her because she didn't exhaust you early enough. So, all in all, not bad. But you see, the Tristana could have forced that trade down some more because they had these minions, and you just drop your axe. So the Tristana backed out of this whenever she didn't necessarily need to yet. Okay, Hecarim did end up getting out. And it was probably because of... Was it because of that? Let me check. Oh, no, it wasn't. He did do what I said. Oh, he does waste time. Okay. So after... what Udyr should have done, right? To just go into this because this is important in a different way. One of the most important things about playing every role in this game is knowing where the jungler is going to be. If you know where the jungler is going to be, then you know when you can play aggressive. As Draven, that is a very important tool if you know where the jungler is going to be. So my prediction here was that the Udyr was going to rush to his second red buff because the Udyr knows that the Hecarim is going to try and take it. And what ends up happening is the Udyr wastes a little bit of time coming down river, and those are 2 seconds that he could have been at the buff, right? The Lux is also wasting time AFK at turret, which lets this push into her. What really should have happened here is the Udyr should have taken Tiger second, but he didn't know Annie flashed, and he would have just walked over here and he would have killed the Annie. Because Annie probably would have forced onto the Lux if she got an opportunity to. Lux already had her crowd control, so bear stance, Lux crowd control, and red buff means that Annie is dead without flash. But with the way that the Udyr is going walking around, he still wasted a little bit of time. And then he wastes even more time. And then he attacks the red buff. Does he attack the red buff? No, he attacks the Hecarim. He just doesn't have smite. Yeah. So this is also kind of weird because Hecarim played this smart, and since he knew he was going to be doing this invade, Hecarim kept his smite. If you're going to be doing this as the other jungler, as Udyr, you need to make sure that you're And why does he not have bear stance? I guess he doesn't. All right, so that's interesting skilling. Yeah, okay, so he doesn't have bear stance. That's probably why too. All right, so that's enough of following the jungle. But whenever you're adapting to this, right, it's important to know what the enemy jungler is going to do next. There are very obvious gank timers when you need to be playing safe. Now, since you were seeing all of this shit happen over here, and if you saw this early, you know that because they invaded you and stole your red buff, Udyr just was going immediately here, and then he's going to clear down, because this is his next buff. He's going to be blue. So you're looking at him ganking bottom around 3.5 to 4 minutes if he just straight up does his buff and then comes bottom. Realistically, it's probably more 4 or 4.5. So where you want this to be is you want this wave to be in a position that you are not at risk of getting ganked between 3.5 and 4 minutes. And this kind of wave management, predicting where the jungler is going to be and knowing when you can be aggressive, because as I said, your mid laner is not fucking going to come help you, and your jungler has no reason to be down here. He's got his camps up here that he needs to farm. And his red buff was stolen. He has no buff down here to come get. So your jungler has no reason to be down here. Your mid laner will not roam down here. You need to watch out for your own ass. And because of that, you need to manage your wave so you're not at risk of getting ganked 3.5 to 4 minutes. What this means is you're either going to try and extend this freeze out for 2 minutes, or you're going to push and reset the wave. You probably can slow push this to an extent and then hard push once you've stacked up your own wave to make it so that way they can't freeze it back on you. But this is kind of an early freeze. Once Karma gets back too, you're going to lose any potential to pressure this lane forward. So you need to make sure that you are doing the right thing with this wave, which is resetting it soon. Obviously, as Draven, you don't have enough push to reset this immediately. Karma will be back by the time you reset it. But your timer to reset it is not by the time Karma gets here, it's by the time Udyr gets here. You also need to work on your last hitting. You're missing some very free CS. Right now, you should not miss anything. Yeah. At this point, I would be pinging the wave to have Nami auto it too. If Nami autoed the wave, this would assure you that it pushes in at 3.5 to 4 minutes. Because right now, you have no wards out, which if you were going to be stuck in this kind of shitty situation, you need a ward out like now. So Nami's either got to go and ward, which means you ping her to ward, or Nami's got to hit this wave. Karma's back in like no time at all, and look where the Udyr is, right? Udyr is going to hit level 3 and is going to look to gank something, right? And where's he going to gank? Well, mid lane's pushed in over here. He's going to gank bottom. Where's your wave going to be? Your wave's going to be up here. Okay, well, Udyr's not ganking anything. You're getting away with murder here. Yeah. Now your jungler is bottom for some reason. This is weird pathing. He didn't clear all of his camps up here. I'm guessing he just didn't want to gank for this, but he really should have looked for this because he was on that corner of the map. And he also has this to look for. So he doesn't really have a reason to be down here right now. I'm not sure why he's down here. Unless he's trying to counter gank, but if he was trying to counter gank, it's this play would have already kind of happened. He's trying to invade. All right. So this is good in a different way for sake of knowledge, just to tell you better prediction skills, right? Since Hecarim just ran in here, right, you know that the Udyr isn't here. Otherwise, it would have fucking started a fight. And if the Udyr isn't here, you know he's on the other side of the map. So what you're doing now is completely safe, right? This is fine. You can play up and you can play stupid right now, you know, hitting them under tower if you get a chance, because Udyr is not here. Udyr should be here, but Udyr is not here. This is a cheeky play that you really don't want to do as Draven. You need to have your axes whenever you're looking for kind of an all-in like that, and the best thing you can do to set up a cheeky play like that is to try and set up for a dive. Um, that or freeze a wave. You're not really wanting to wait in bushes. All right, you're getting fed out the ass. You got to get those free CS though. There's no excuse to miss those. All right. And now you're hard pushing again. So this is a pretty interesting situation, and this is you're doing the right thing. You're just getting away with murder. But over here, if the Udyr was doing something, it is very likely he was trying to show up to this around now. Just because of pathing, just because of where everyone is and what he's going to try and defend. Also, his bottom lane is kind of just dying left and right, and you don't really want to gank a fed Draven. So Udyr's probably up here. See where he's headed? Probably headed top. Start predicting these things, though. It's going to help you a truckload playing AD carry Draven. It's going to tell you how to manage waves and when to go aggressive. Right now, as I have told you, this game you are getting away with murder because you have had Hecarim bottom side whenever you should have gotten ganked, and Hecarim had other things he could have been ganking. And you also had Udyr fail his second red buff, which let the Hecarim come back into the game. And you also had the Udyr just kind of avoid that gank opportunity and go top. So there's a lot of things wrong with this. But again, what I always have been saying with win conditions and stuff like that is you update your strategy. So assuming that you had warded to know that it was safe to play up, assuming you had warded, everything you've done so far is fine. But you need to use your wards because that second play that you flashed in on the Karma, or maybe you didn't flash, but you went in for this kill over here earlier, your second kill or third kill, I don't remember which one it was, but it was at that 3.5 minutes. Udyr should have been here, and they should have been able to turn that on you. They had heal. And if you were flashing into that, or you didn't have flash, either or, you were fucking dead. And that's a window back into the game that you don't have to give the enemy team. And the only thing you had to do to prevent that from happening was to ward. Tell the Nami to ward. You can tell your team to ward. Ping the bush and say ward. That's 4 letters you type in and click enter that takes you 3 seconds to do. And since you're missing the last hit here and there, it's not like it's going to be that's different, right? If you were to use a second to send a message. But hard pushing like this is kind of what you want to do at this point. Because as I told you, the weakness of this lane is if you just let them push you in. And by you pushing them in, you are actually able to play the aggressive Karma in this matchup, where you're able to just harass them under tower, and they have no real healing. So this ward, right? This is what you needed earlier, and this is how you got out of this alive, right? Very easy play to ward. Lux held her abilities too much. She probably could have ulted right away and picked up that kill. Don't know why. And he shouldn't be bottom right now. She's not going to get a kill on that, most likely. Yeah, she did get a kill, but... Ooh, Hecarim TP coming in. As I said, mid-game, that's where that comes in. So, okay, this situation, you want to go and you want to look for this turret. I would say Hecarim should walk around and should dive this. I would type to my team, dive. If Hecarim doesn't want to walk around, just wants to walk through turret, that's fine too. But this is a free kill. You've already seen how much damage you do to this. And, yeah. This is not how you want to dive. Yeah. So what went wrong here, right? So for starters, let's look back in time and I'll show you every play has setup And if you wait too long, that setup fails. That setup dies and it gets reset. It's like a wave hitting a turret and pushing back, right? The setup here that you're looking at right now is you have a minion wave, and you know that the Lux is base and that the Tristana is base, right? But how long is that going to be the case? It doesn't take you that long to walk back to lane, like 10 seconds, right? So if you're going to do this dive and you're going to look for this turret, you need to look for it now before they get back, right? Simple, but how do you know where they are, right? How do you have this prediction? This is the same thing as knowing where the jungler is. There's where you know. These death timers right here are where you know. 10 seconds to walk back to lane, basically. That's just a number out my ass. Don't take my word for it. And, 10 seconds for the Tristana to respawn, 10 more for the Lux. So you have, at this point, like maybe 10 seconds from here to do this play. So whenever you push this wave up, how many seconds do you think this play actually has to follow through? Maybe 4? Maybe 5? Nothing. You really don't have very much time at all to have this play happen, because you need to dive this and you need to get out this way. Whenever you see this Udyr over here, you guys all decide to chase him, and this is a terrible decision because, one, if the Udyr wants to be sitting over here, fucking let him, because the only thing that matters in this game is objectives. And the play here would have been to kill the Karma so you could back off, so you could siege the turret to the point that they cannot defend it when they get back. And if you want to chase this Udyr, he is baiting you away from the objective. You got the kill, but you were baited away from the objective, and your time was wasted. Because now whenever you reset for this, Tristana's already here, and the Lux was almost there too. I don't know why he turns around, because in this world, you shouldn't have even gotten that. And this is where your dive is bad. Once you got that kill, your decision was going for that kill and Dragon. Realistically, that was the play you were making, and that is the only play you could have made. A turret is worth more than dragons, by the way. A turret is more than a dragon. And I have a video I'll send to you if you disagree with me. But because of this play, they have to push out this wave a little bit, and you have bought a little bit of time. And if they fight you over here, you're a little bit over leveled, right? Your level. Well, you're not. It's not that you're over leveled necessarily, but you could potentially have an extra person, right? So you could have 4 versus 3 at Dragon if that's what you wanted to do. What you're doing over here, Lux is missing. You have these pings coming out. You're ignoring them, and you decide to take this fight under turret over here. You're not going to get this turret with the way this play is going right now. So you're only going for more kills. And if you want to look at your score, you don't really need more kills right now. You kind of need to look at objectives, because look at your objectives. I've had games where by 15 minutes you've already taken an inhibitor. And I'm sure you have too. But the only way that kind of game happens is if you auto the turret. The game right here, where you've got this gold lead, 6 kills. 6 kills could very quickly turn. Because a kill is what? 300 to 500 gold. A turret is worth 300 gold per person, basically, the first turret. And you've already fallen behind, basically, in gold if they just get 2 turrets. And I told you, their what's his name? Yorick was going to be a better split pusher, so gold turret-wise is going to fall in their favor. It is. So you need to look for this gold early, because it's going to slip away. And you as an AD carry, turrets is one of your major concerns. Turrets and objectives are largely your job. Those things are, because who's safer to siege than someone who has a lot of attack speed, a lot of damage, and range? This is your job. This turret is your job. This is your job. And then once you win your lane to rotate, maybe not specifically this game, I also didn't really pay too much attention to your rank. It's really hard to get rotations to work efficiently at lower ratings. So it's really hard to do that. But you can press your lead in other ways if you successfully take this turret. So looking for this dive, you have decided that you are not looking for any objectives, and you are just going for kills, and you are willing to take unnecessary risks for kills, because you're giving them kills for kills. 100% this dive is going to end with at least one of you dying, because they're going to have 2 people here minimum, and you saw what happened with just 2 people, right? Just 2 people. That's all that's here. 1 died. Just 2 people. Tristana's already getting a little bit back in the game, right? Just 2 people here. Now, alright, you have no exhaust because for some reason, I guess the Karma got exhausted. But now at this point, you have to still dive. And there's your 2nd kill going away, and there's your 3rd kill going away, which makes this a complete waste. Because now you're not getting an objective, you lost out on kills, and you're going to be behind a wave because she's going to push this in and no one's doing anything middle. And see, this is the nature of this matchup. Yorick just beats Garen, and Garen's really low and he calls for help, but this probably is going to net them a kill, so ultimately not bad, but it's going to end in no objectives again. No objectives. You're just getting CS. And you're denied a little bit over here, and you're denied a little bit over here. So, overall, this play that the Annie did, although it was nice of her to go and help top lane, it accomplishes nothing. So, okay, paying attention to the map, right? This is something that I've been pointing out several times this entire game. You just saw the Udyr die. You just saw the Lux show middle. You just saw the Yorick use TP. Now you can again play aggressive like crazy, which is the way you've been playing all lane, but I want you to recognize these windows because even though it's not, fucking you this game, and I can't point it out, your style completely does not care about this, and it is obvious with the way that you flash in whenever they still have summoners, whenever you flash in at 3.5 minutes whenever Udyr could have been down here. Whenever you constantly are pushed under turret, whenever your jungler had no reason to be down here helping you. You do not care about tracking. And that is something that, even though it's not biting you in the ass this game, you need to be aware of it. So I'm pointing it out. I'm pointing it out, and you need to be aware of it, because this is fucking gonna win you more games than anything else as specifically Draven. Because how do you win as Draven? You snowball early. How do you get fucked early? You get ganked. Realistically, that's it. Or you can complain like, oh, my support did something. But if your support's doing something, that honestly, 50% of the time is you doing something incorrectly too. So it's not safe to blame your support, and it's not safe to blame your jungler, because in those jungle situations, you can be playing safe. And in those support situations, largely you can manage a wave better, you can ward better yourself, or you can be in a position to trade better. So there are a lot of things that can go into this, and one of these things, again, as Draven, you draw a lot of map pressure. Because people want to shut you down, and because you do a lot of damage, and people are like, oh no, his poke hurts. So understand where the jungler is. The jungler is dead, so you can play aggressive. Recognize that, and you're fine. Yeah, you're getting away with so much this game, trading-wise, and it's honestly kind of silly. Now, you're paying attention to death timers and stuff too, right? That's what I was telling you, how quickly someone could get back to a lane. Well, there's very little reason for the Udyr to go top right now. You have to constantly be aware of everything that's happening on the map. As I said, whenever we started this game, and you were AFK in these bushes, pay attention the entire game. Pay attention to where people are, and think about where they will be. The only 2 maneuvers Udyr has right now is to look for dragon or look for mid. And if he goes for dragon, his first move is to look for bottom. Look how pushed you are, look how low your mana is, and look at your summoners. Right? Your summoners, you have no flash, no heal, no exhaust, no flash. So if the Udyr was to come down here, you would die without any vision. And look at this again. You very rarely have vision here. So what's going to happen in 10 seconds, again, because he's got to walk back from wherever he is, you are going to be in a dangerous situation for the next 2 minutes. because the next objective the Udyr probably wants, and judging by waves and judging by health bars, he's going to be on the bottom side of the map for the next 2 minutes because his gank opportunity is bottom and middle. His objective is probably Dragon, because Dragon helps his team out quite considerably, and a lot of lower LOs ignore Herald. And I'm just piecing it together this game. So no offense there, but it's very likely he's going to start looking to this side of the map. And if he does that, you need a fucking ward. And look at your inventory, right? I'm confident you have a ward. Yeah. Your Nami doesn't, but you do. So in 10 seconds, if you don't have a ward, you are asking to die. And you have a wave here in a good situation where it's just going to get straight up cleared by the Karma, right? She's going to ult this wave and do a chunk of damage to you, and then you're going to get pushed off doing only 100 to 200 damage to this turret. So you're not going to take this turret here, and you're going to take a lot of health damage. Instead, use this time to get your ward off. Don't, because you're not missing CS if you go right now. You're not missing CS. You're still denying CS to their carry, and you're not going to take the turret anyways. So go and ward their jungle right here. If you go and you ward their jungle right here, you know if Udyr does his camp and leaves, and you know if he does his camp and comes, you know if he does his camp and comes through lane, you know if he goes straight around here. But in 10 seconds, you can't do that. You can't get this deep ward. And if you see him walk up, you know you can play like crazy again. You can go and you can harass them under turret and flash after them and do whatever the fuck you want. But if you don't see him walk away and you only ward here, then if you flash at them at this distance, obviously you don't have flash, but bear with me. Udyr pops out of this the jungle, right, and start coming down here, and it's too late for you to change your mind. From here, you do not get away. You do not get away with the river ward. You need a deep ward. The only time you have to do that is now. So use this time instead to ward. You're not losing any CS. You're not going to take the turret. You're still denying. This is a very good situation. And look how much damage you take for free. You're out of mana now, so you can't really stay. And now you've potentially given up the pressure on this side of the map. Oh, you do have this plant, so that's kind of lucky. Oh, Udyr shows up over here? Never mind. I have no fucking idea what's going on. So I always like it when my bot lane roams mid. This was a pretty good roam. The only reason it was good, right? The only thing it takes to kill a Lux is basically one thing of crowd control. And even though the Annie is low, right? And she doesn't have flash, she's in a position that she is baiting, basically. And it is very unlikely that they have any wards down here to catch your rotation, because you've been shoving them in this entire game. There's no reason for them to ward this. They've been dead or under turret. There's no reason. They don't have the opportunity to. So they have no vision of you doing this. Nami ults, Nami bubbles, Annie might Q, you auto like twice, and she's dead. Plus, her flash is down. So there's no way she gets out of this. Oh, Nami doesn't have ult, but still, you see how easy this is. I like the thumbs up. One thing that you should be aware of, even as playing as Draven, is there is no such thing as a kill steal. I would always rather have a kill secure than a kill steal. If someone comes to lane and is giving you a kill, it gets away 30% of the time. And that's just because people are too generous, and then all of a sudden they still have flash and they flash out. So never get tilted because someone takes your kill. I like the thumbs up. To me, that means you're okay with it. It also looks like the Tristana is AFK right now because, yeah, she should have been bottom pushing this. If she comes mid, but that's not going to change anything really. I don't know what's going on here either. So kind of a tip, if you're losing as AD carry, your objective should be to make the enemy AD carry as useless as you are. And the way you do that is by forcing them to sit in a lane. Right now you're grouping, and you're doing this. This is actually really good for you, but I'm pretending you're the Tristana right now. The Tristana should be pushing this in to take a turret. That way you are forced to come back bottom, and you are forced to just CS. In that case, Lux comes back and is able to wave clear this against your Garen and your Annie. So in that world, you don't get this turret. However, you've already, kind of chunked down the Tristana a little bit, and the chunk down the Udyr. So you're just minions against a tower and minions against Lux. You're not going to get the tower at this point, judging by Lux wave clear and who else is here. It's time for you to base. Um, Something that I would be a little more aware of. I'm not sure exactly how much it's been a problem for you, but when you recall is something that's kind of important. Yeah, it hasn't really been it hasn't been an issue this game. Never mind. Ignore me. Don't go back mid. Go bottom. You have this huge wave. You have a turret to take. This fight's over. Because you recalled, this fight is over. Your team should not have been looking for this. Plus, if you go bottom, you then force them to make the decision. Well, I guess you already are kind of drawing pressure up here. So you might have to be mid, because they're going to potentially be able to take 2 turrets. Yeah, you have to come mid. You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing, 100%. Otherwise, they could have taken 2 turrets. Don't do that. Don't get tilted. It looks like you're just AFK to type to your support. Don't hit CS or something. Don't do that. And now there's no reason for you to be mid, though, right? You've just taken chunks of damage that you don't need to. You know the pressure is going to be drawn up here. Now's your chance to go bottom and get this turret gold. Finish off this turret. It's going to take you literally 1 wave past this. Go bottom now. Get that turret. If you stay mid, the Lux is going to be here again. Tristana's still here. Karma's still here. Look for this. Nami, whenever she comes from base, is going to come down bottom 2. You're going to get a heal. You're going to look for Dragon while the enemy is all responding top lane. Yeah, you didn't want to look for that anyways, because everyone's missing right now on this side of the map. Tristana, Lux, Karma, and you see where your ward is. This is a completely ass ward. This ward is so you're not playing mid here, so I'm not really going to go too much into mid lane specific warding, but this is not going to catch most mid lane rotations. It's not going to catch most ganks on mid lane. It's good for sieging mid lane if you have a whole team here, but this is an aggressive ward. It's usually too late to spot out getting ganked, and it's usually too late to spot out roams. This is not a very reliable ward. The way you were playing was, where is their Tristana right now? Tristana's top. Okay, never mind. If you saw that, then this is fine. But you see that they are coming down, so you can't chase it. And then you look back into this. Okay. Don't look into that either. Lux doesn't have ult though. Maybe no, I still wouldn't look into that. I wouldn't be over here at all. You don't know where the 2 of them are. This is dangerous. It's very dangerous. Yeah, you deserve that. Finally, you get punished a little bit for this. So, one of my ways of teaching yourself when to play aggressive is by counting. And you have to count 2 ways every time before you make a decision to go in. You count first, what's the maximum amount of enemies that can be there? The maximum, meaning where have you seen them last, and have you seen them? So, in this case, you saw that Tristana was top lane, but you saw her top lane a long time ago. You saw the Yorick is top lane, so you know that okay, worst case down here is probably 4, but that is what you planned for. 4. Going into this dark part of their jungle with no vision, you're expecting to fight 4 people. That is the first way you count. The second way you count is what is the minimum amount of people on your team that can be there. So look at how this starts, and now you'll understand the risk of counting and where this second form comes in. The minimum for your team isn't 4, even though they do show up later. They are mid right now. They could just be blind to it. They could push this in, but even if they showed up, they're going to show up late. That means the minimum here is 2. You are picking this fight in a 2 versus 4. Alright? 2 versus 4. Now, Tristana is an iffy, but you can pretty confidently say this is at least a 2 versus 3. And that's a fight you don't want. Doesn't matter how fed you are, it's a fight you don't want. You don't want to take number disadvantages. Because you don't need this blue buff and you don't need these kills. You can go and you can take this objective, which is a, objectively better decision. There is less risk, there is more reward. You are kill hunting and you do not pay attention to tracking. Your wording is poor, you do not track, and you are not paying attention to objectives. That is a huge problem because 80 carries, once you master controlling objectives, you will see the difference in gold. I'll send you a game where I play 80 carry and I change a 1k gold lead into like 12k in less than 5 minutes taking turrets. And it's easy. It's really easy. And it's something that you just need to start to understand the importance of in order to do that. This is not your jungler's fault diving for those kills that you died. This is your fault for walking in here. Leads to 2 deaths. Because you were going mid, which was the right decision earlier, you didn't have priority to go and look for dragon. So that's how Udyr got the dragon. And you end up getting this turret anyways, but you're not here for it. You should have been the one to take that. You'd have taken it for far less too. A-ramming like this is also a really, 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 really bad habit. You do not ever want to do this whenever you don't have things going on the map. So a second tool that you can start to use to help you better your playstyle as an 80 carry is looking for waves and how to make them slow push and what else you can get to for sure. So right now, yes, you can take this turret, but this is like the 3rd time or 4th time you have shown up mid just to sit mid for a while. Whenever your waves are pushing, they are going to force someone to respond. Someone from the enemy team is going to want to go and get that CS, and if not, you've just put them a little bit further behind in gold because they lost that gold, which is where you can create your lead. So it's fine if they don't go for it, but the idea is to force a situation where they go for it and you can create a numbers advantage. So mid-game, your objective as 80 carry is to look for ways to take objectives, right? And the way you can easily do that is by starting slow pushes, forcing someone to show up, their Tristana to show up to this lane, and then going to a different turret and taking that turret. Now in this world, also, let's pretend that they have really good wave clear. They have a Xerath mid, or they have a Vel'Koz mid, or they have something that you can't dive. Maybe they have Galio, Udyr, or whatever that are sitting under this turret that are defending it. Your next move then is to say fuck this and go and take Herald. Herald is a very underrated objective. If you are ahead, Herald is a guaranteed turret. If you are ahead. If you are even, it is situational. If you are even, it could be half a turret, it could be 1 auto on a turret, it could be nothing, it could be 2 turrets. If you're even, it's less of an advantage. But let's say you started the slow push. 2 people show up bottom. They're Udyr and they're Lux because they're just fighting over CS, right? And you have this Herald. You could potentially take this turret and the one behind it in that same push without wasting any time. So this is something you need to add to your playbook. Now, right now, I agree with you going mid. Again, I kind of agree with you. But just noticing this as part of your playstyle to go mid this consistently, you are forcing your Annie to split push, and you're forcing your team just to sit here and siege, which is not the best maneuver when you're a Draven. When you're a Draven, you're looking for skirmishes, not team fights. So to set up skirmishes, you want to look for objective control and rotations. Objective control as in neutral objectives, like Dragon and Rift. To look for sieging, if you just want to siege, play something like Tristana or Caitlyn, right? That's where those picks shine. But if you're having fun with just laning, right, because you want to just play aggressive like this, then yeah, Draven, sure. But be aware of the jungler whenever you're doing that, because you're probably having less fun some games than you should. This is really disrespectful. Yeah. There's nothing to get here. Again, you're just sieging. If you want to avoid something like this, like look exactly what happened here. You just got rooted. What if the Lux has her ult? She does. What if they have someone who can auto you? They might. You're probably going to die. Then you don't get anything. All this is posturing, and this is not necessary. Don't siege like this. Look at waves, because in 2 waves, this is going to literally, by the minion waves themselves, take this turret. Start looking to set that sort of thing up. Alright, well, I don't know how it ended up happening that you were able to take turrets out of that. Again, I guess Lux is just holding her ult too much. Yeah, your playstyle is so aggressive and disrespectful. You don't care how many people are there. You don't care what else is going on the map. You just want to fight. Start working on your counting. Before you take any fight, count both ways. If you're ever at a number disadvantage, change your mind. See, this is what you want to do. Now, they're probably going to be able to take a turret over here too, but they don't have their jungler over there, so they can't take Baron. And they don't have their wave clear because their wave clear is mid. You're going to take a turret for a turret here, but this is a best case scenario because they were going to take that turret top, or anyways. Could have been played a little bit better mechanically, but it's whatever. Alright. So it looks like this is pretty much game in a lot of ways. You're 10k gold ahead, which means that you can start making mistakes when it doesn't really matter as much. All you really need to do at this point, you've already got your bottom inhib and your mid inhib. Basically, if you wanted to just back off and take this, which you guys do, judging by this clock, you can go and you can Baron after this for complete free, or you can rotate top with this huge wave and take turrets. This game is closed out here. But your problems, you have very obvious aggression issues. You play too aggressive without caring who or how many people are there. You know, Udyr had that opportunity to gank you 3.5 minutes and you flash in. They had heal whenever you flash in. Tristana jumps away, scared. You dive over here and you just constantly siege mid running up at them. Those are ways you're going to put yourself in a bad situation and die. When you don't need to. As I was trying to point out, like there are objectively better and safer and more rewarding plays you could be making. Start to put more of a focus on turrets and specifically wave control to get those turrets. You sit mid, so if you're focusing on turrets and you think that sitting mid is focusing on turrets, that's not. That's how you force a team fight at lower ratings. So it's not a good habit. If you get a wave going and it's slow pushing, you then can force them to make a decision. Do I lose the CS or do I respond to wherever else that AD carry is? If you create a slow enough push and allow them to like crash over here, at 10 minutes you can rotate top and take top turret for free in most cases. Because most of the time, top laners don't have proper wave clear. Like, what the fuck's a Garen going to do to stop a siege? It's going to run at you. Well, you know, that's either going to end in his death or probably a very bad time for him. So you need to look for these wave control rotations. The next thing, you need to pay a lot more attention to your vision control. I pointed out a few times this game, but you never buy a pink ward, and you don't care about any sort of rotation. You rotate mid, but you were not rotating mid in that time you came to kill Lux. You were ganking mid. That wasn't rotating mid. You were ganking mid because there was no objective obtained. The only time that you really are thinking about rotations is, in my mind, in terms of what objective are you going to get, because kills don't mean shit. And to explain this, kills give you gold, which lets you win the next fight. But if you just spend that same logic over and over, and you win the next fight and you get more gold, and you win the next fight and you get more gold, and you win the next fight and you get more gold, and you win the next fight and you get more gold. So that's all that really happens, and that's all you ever do. You're not going to win the game. Because eventually, some point, you're going to have to take these turrets, right? So you get more gold so you can kill them, but then what is the point of killing them, right? You get more gold? No, that is not the point of killing them. It is so you can take an objective uncontested. That is the only thing you should be thinking about with relation to kills. Taking an objective uncontested. Now, is Draven getting gold? Snowballing, yeah, to take an objective uncontested, maybe a little bit less so. But to the point that you chase the Udyr in his jungle like 5 times or something, I don't know how many times you actually do it. I don't really care. You do it too much. You don't need to. Because this is what all your kills are playing for. This is what they add up to. This is where they're going. Objectives. This isn't Team Deathmatch Call of Duty, right? You know, if you go and you're just fighting people, you're not going to win the game, because this row of turrets, inhibitor, and the nexus, that is the string of events that has to happen for you to win a game, or they surrender. But you know, you're not going to rely on them surrendering. You're going to rely on how you're going to fucking win the game. So if you get kills, you're in a better position to win the next fight, yes. But what happens after you win that fight? Because you eventually have to win the game by getting these objectives. Start thinking about these objectives. Start thinking about how you're going to set up for these objectives with minion wave control. And thinking about when you're going to siege. Thinking about how you can safely set up your sieges, like with the vision that I mentioned. The next thing you need to be a little bit worried about is counting. Again, this is your aggressive playstyle, and you do not care about when you trade, how you trade. You don't care about when you flash in. You don't care about when the jungler is supposed to be there. You just fight. And that's the problem. The game you sent me, it works out. But I explained throughout this entire game why the Udyr is somewhere else or where he should be, and that you're getting away with murder. You so frequently this game get away with murder. And I'm not talking about your KDA, because your KDA is okay, you know, it's good. It's good. But you should have died so much more, and the enemy team was not properly responding to you. This game could have gone so much worse for your team. And a lot of it comes down to just the disrespect that you give them. If you're playing this game and you're rushing these items, right, and you're playing like this, the only excuse you have to be playing as forward as you were is if you already had QSS. Because if Lux Qs you in this world, you're dead. Lux holds your abilities way too much this game, and they're always too low or too scared to engage on you. But you had several situations where you should have just straight up died. Beyond that, you need to look for your neutral objectives a lot more. Herald is something that you could have been looking towards instead of sieging mid that first time. You could have also been looking for potentially doing Dragon after this instead of the dive, right? Whenever you went for that dive, instead look for this Dragon. You're ignoring these neutral objectives, which are not incredibly important, but are more important and less risky than what you ended up doing. It's all about what is the phrase? Opportunity cost. What you could have been doing. And so those are your 3 major things. You're aggressive to the point that you just simply don't care about anything other than going aggressive. And you need to learn when you can do that. I pointed out that they had summoners and they had minions and stuff like that, but in this, there were a lot of situations where this could have just still worked out. So this is the time you flashed in to get the kill on Karma. The first time, I agree with. The second time, I disagree with. And then pretty much every other stage of this game, you should have been punished a little bit. But the Udyr was not paying attention to this lane ever. So yeah, you need to work on that counting and aggression. The next thing is warding. You had an opportunity to ward, which shows me several times, like whenever you were pushing the wave 3.5 minutes, or whenever you were pushing for the turret, you just don't care about warding. It is your job too. You need to buy a pink ward in that same avenue and use it to control these neutral objectives. Next thing, you need to work on your rotations and like your tower control. You siege mid way too much. You're not a mid tower sieger. You're not a sieging champion. You're a skirmishing champion. And since you specified Draven, that means that you are probably playing a lot of Draven. So you need to know that this is, you probably are aware that this is not something you should be doing, not something that is optimal. The optimal fight for you is what you did down here, right, where you're poking people under turrets, sure. But if it's a 5 versus 5, that's not what you want. Because then the Malphite's going to ult you, or whatever. And those really are your major problems. I don't think you get tilted too easily this game, but you're also pretty much stomping. You have so much gold to work with that you're able to play aggressive and go for stupid trades later on. So trading really isn't something I could talk about this game. But yeah, just really pay attention to tracking, to rotations, to neutral objectives, and to towers. You chase for kills way too much. All right, well, that's the end of this review. Hope some of that's helpful. Good luck.